Hey everyone, and welcome. We've got an absolutely beautiful and unique project to unpack today. In this explainer, we're diving into a visual production guide for one of the most revered devotional compositions in the entire world, the Hanuman Chalisa. Our goal today is to break down exactly how you can build a stunning, traditional Doha-style visual representation of this sacred text from absolute scratch. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly do you visually capture something as profound as divine devotion? It's really not just about throwing a few pictures onto an editing timeline. It's about creating an atmosphere. It's about pure reverence. So think of this explainer as your masterclass in solving that exact challenge of devotional visual storytelling, using a highly structured step-by-step approach. All right, let's dive right into our roadmap. First up, the serene opening frame. Then, crafting the chop-high visuals, setting the musical tone, adding divine transitions and effects, and finally, the perfect closing frame. Think of these 5 steps as your high-level storyboard. We're basically going to map out the creator's journey, flowing sequentially from establishing that opening frame, pushing through the dynamic core of the chop-high sections, layering in our background music, polishing it all with transitions and effects, and culminating in a memorable closing frame. It's a super logical flow designed to keep you completely organized. Step 1, the serene opening frame. This is all about setting a peaceful tone. To really nail that traditional Doha style, you've got to focus heavily on sensory details. You want to start with a blank canvas that instantly transports the viewer right out of their busy day and into a sacred space. Picture this: vibrant visuals of a sunrise, or maybe the gentle, steady flow of the Ganga River. Then pair that imagery with the welcoming sound of temple bells and some soft instrumental music. Think along the lines of a flute, a sitar, or a veena. You're basically signaling the viewer to just take a deep breath and center themselves. And that serene background, it serves as the absolute perfect canvas for your text. You'll anchor your very first frame with this beautiful opening Doha snippet, Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja, Nijamanu Mukuru Sudari. It sets the spiritual intention and introduces the viewer to the text right out of the gate. Moving on to step 2, crafting the chop-high visuals, where we bring the verses to life. So the crucial takeaway here is visual contrast. We literally just established that incredibly peaceful, serene opening with our sunrise and gentle river. But as we move into the chop-high, which are the core verses of the Chalisa, we need a dynamic shift. We start bringing in highly energetic imagery. Think warrior Hanuman, or him carrying the massive Sanjivani mountain. The visual intensity absolutely has to match the energetic narrative of the text itself. To break that down a bit further, a really smart strategy is to divide each verse into its own distinct visual segment. And you have so many amazing aesthetic choices to play with. You can feature Lord Hanuman in different forms depending on the specific verse you're covering. Maybe Child Hanuman for the early verses and Warrior Hanuman for feats of strength. And here's a vital tip: you need to overlay the text. Adding the Devanagari script or an English transliteration is an absolute game changer. It transforms a passive viewing experience into an active participatory one where the viewer can actually read and chant along. Okay, step 3, setting the musical tone with a traditional Bajrang style. The audio production phase is where the spiritual atmosphere truly gets locked in. For that authentic, traditional Bajrang style, you want specific, deeply cultural instrumentation, the rhythmic heartbeat of the tabla, the melodic drone of the harmonium, and the mridangam. These instruments carry such a recognizable devotional resonance. But hey, what if you aren't a musician? Well, there's a highly practical alternative. You can simply use a beautifully recorded Hanuman Chalisa chant as your main audio track to drive the entire visual flow. It works perfectly. Next up is step 4, divine transitions and effects to highlight that spiritual energy. Now, when you're transitioning between those dozens of divided verses, how exactly do you do it? The primary golden rule here is to use soft fade-ins and fade-outs. You absolutely want to avoid harsh, jarring cuts or crazy digital wipes in a devotional piece. Soft fades are a very deliberate choice. They maintain that serene, uninterrupted flow that keeps your viewer completely engaged in a meditative state. And to really elevate the production value, we bring in some tasteful visual effects. Try adding golden auras around the imagery or using glowing text effects. It practically highlights the divine energy of the composition, giving the whole piece an ethereal, almost otherworldly feel. Plus, it naturally draws the viewer's eye exactly where you want it, to the sacred words and the central figures, without being overwhelmingly flashy. Finally, we reach step 5,
the perfect closing frame, delivering a lasting blessing.
Just like our serene opening, we want to anchor this final sequence with text. We showcase the final Doha snippet, Pavanatanaya Sankata Harana, Mangalashmurti Rupa. Placing this right on the screen frames the textural conclusion of your project beautifully, bringing the chanting to its formal traditional close. And to bring the whole shebang full circle, your final frame needs a few specific elements. You should feature an image of Hanuman actively blessing devotees. Over that, you overlay the phrase, Jai Hanuman, in strong, bold letters. And then, listen for it, you bring back the sound of the temple bells from the very first frame. It perfectly resolves the journey, leaving the viewer with a profound sense of peace and completion.
Now, looking at all these steps, you might be thinking, wow, this sounds like a massive, expensive undertaking. But actually, scratch that. This entire divine storyboard can be easily assembled using incredibly accessible, completely free tools. We're talking Clipchamp, Canva, or CapCut. The democratization of editing software today is just amazing. You literally don't need a massive Hollywood studio to create something deeply meaningful and visually stunning.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question to wrap up this explainer. How will you bring this divine storyboard to life? I mean, you have the structured sequence, you understand the visual and auditory cues needed, and you know exactly which free tools to use. The blank canvas is right there waiting for you. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today, and I seriously can't wait to see the devotional visual stories you all create.